Yes, it's been a minute. It's good to see you. I'm glad to see you in good health and high spirits. So it's really good to see.
I'm trying. I'm trying to remain in high spirits. That's a little bit difficult with everything going on, but we've got to keep on pushing.
Yeah.
So there is so much to cover with what is going on in Congo, Maurice. And we have talked several times before, and I know you have been talking all day about Congo, the history of the conflict. So I'm not going to go into the history that I know you've already gone over. I do want
Okay.
to make a couple of things clear because I think people might be confused about why we're making a big deal about some of the things we're going to make a big deal about.
Mm.
So, the first thing I want to bring up is that last week, the Democratic Republic of Congo and M23 agreed to set up an oversight body for a potential permanent ceasefire. Allegedly, there's this ceasefire that's supposedly
Mhm.
agreed upon or being agreed to between the Democratic Republic of Congo and the main group of militias that are backed by Rwanda, M23. They've
Mm.
agreed to this ceasefire for this decades-long conflict. The agreement was signed in Doha after being mediated by Qatar, which is that's very interesting. But it is being reported that this agreement builds on a declaration of principles that was signed in July that would restore state authorities to Eastern Congo. And then the Rwandan backed M23 is the most prominent of more than 100 armed groups fighting for control of the DRC's mineral rich soil, basically. So, for people who are unclear on Rwanda's
Mm.
role in this deepening destruction in Congo, because I'm pretty sure, and I would like to hear your thoughts about this ceasefire because
Mm.
my opinions on ceasefires right now pretty low.
Right. Right.
But why is Rwanda involved in this? Why? What are they after?
Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you for that. I think you mentioned something about you referenced the theme of Black Alliance of Peace this month. 21st century neocolonialism, right? And in looking at the Congo and the Great Lakes region, particularly the Great Lakes region of Africa, particularly Uganda and Rwanda with the Congo, you really have to put it in a neocolonial framing, right? And a foundational understanding is that in Kinshasa, capital of Congo, Kampala, capital of Uganda, Kigali, capital of Rwanda, they're being headed up by agents of neocolonialism, right? So even though they're war with each other, they're all agents,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, Felix Tshisekedi of Congo, the first time he came to the U.S. when he was elected in 2019, he spoke at APAC, right?
Wow.
Paul Kagame, his relationship with Israel, when Israel wanted to offload their asylees, they wanted to deport people, it was Rwanda that stepped up and said, hey, Netanyahu, send them here,
Wow.
right? So the relationships with these agents and that the relationships that they have with the empire and the proxies of the empire there isn't any daylight really among them. We know Uganda when Bush invaded Iraq, they stepped up and said, hey, we'll send our soldiers to
Right.
be in Iraq with
Mm-hmm.
you, right? So I think that's a foundational understanding that the elites, right, are captured by the empire. So that being said, right, that means that none of them is dealing in the interest of the working class or the oppressed masses of the Congo.
Mm-hmm.
They're in alignment with international finance capital, alignment with the military industrial complex, SIC, Africom as it relates to the United States, NATO as it relates to Europe, right? Mm-hmm. When Bush launched Africom in 2008, that Obama, October 1st, 2008, George Bush and Donald Rumsfeld, they just got it out. They just opened the doors, right? Yeah. Obama took it and just broke down the doors and said, just let everything
Obama broke down the walls of the house, everything.
Right. And it's really important when we talk about neocolonialism to understand how Africom began, right? In that it was boosted under a Black president and a Black general, mm-hmm. President Barack Obama and General Kip Ward, right. Graduate from Morgan State, just up the street, right? So it works on both sides, because people say like, why, the Black folks are fighting against each other. Folks then on the other side can ask, how come these Black folks are sending military to kill us here in Africa, right? They can ask that question to us. So we have to explain that to them, right? We have to have a theory, like Nkrumah gave us, the theory of neocolonialism. He's the one who coined that frame in that book,
That's right.
The imperialism, the latest stage, mm-hmm. or neocolonialism, the latest stage of imperialism. Mm-hmm. So that framing is really important. It was early on, there's pictures of Africom head Kip Ward and a gentleman by the name of James Kabarebe and Paul Kagame, right, in Rwanda, promoting Africom as something that's embraced by the continent. It's embraced by the elites, but certainly not by the masses. So when we look in that framing and we have the discussion within that context, understanding that these are all agents of neocolonialism, they're serving elite interests, their own personal interests locally and global interests, then we see that this peace deal that they're talking about, right, that was signed, they call it the Washington Accord, June 27th, under the auspices of Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, and Donald Trump, right, where Rwanda and the DRC signed a peace agreement really that serves the interests, as I just mentioned, of everybody but the people. So what do I mean by that? Rwanda's interests are served. They've waged a 30-year war of aggression and plunder against the Congolese people, extracted minerals illicitly, right? And a war of aggression that could not happen would be impossible without the backing of the United States. Mm-hmm. Financial, military, equipment, training, intelligence. And if there's a need, for Uncle Sam to run diplomatic and political interference, they're already there, right, to do that. Mm-hmm. Basically, little Israel in Africa. That's what Rwanda, right? Because the U.S. provides the same for Israel, just on a grander scale. So this deal allows Kagame to the illicit minerals that he was extracting out of Congo to extract it licitly and refine and process those minerals in Rwanda. There's a segment of the peace deal, it's about this number 6. It has 6 or 7 elements. Number 6, regional cooperation and integration. And that's where that falls. So his interests are served, right? Mm-hmm. Then you have Tshisekedi. Rwanda was leading a war of aggression and plunder against the Congo. Tshisekedi was threatened when the Trump administration intervened at the behest of Tshisekedi. Tshisekedi early on, when Trump was having difficulty with Zelensky wasn't folding as easily as he felt he should. Mm-hmm. Zelensky said, I want weapons. Trump said, I want your minerals. Zelensky said, well, I don't know. I'm going to come to your White House and I'm not going to wear a suit. That's my first form of resistance. Right? I'm going to piss off your vice president, right? Because he's like, he's a flaky dude or, thin skin or whatever,
a flaky dude in a room full of flaky dudes.
right. So then Tshisekedi saw an opening. He said, hey, Zelensky ain't, he ain't cooperating. We got all kinds of minerals here. Why don't you enter? We're getting threatened by your proxy Rwanda. If you can put a stop to it, we can offer you our minerals, basically, right? According to African intelligence, it was like a $3 trillion deal on the table. I don't think it was that high, but the deal was on the table. So that meets Tshisekedi's interests, where he can stave off, he can maintain himself in power, if he enters into this deal. Now, Trump, he's all about the deal. And the deal for him, his family, and his people, right? His peeps,
right?
So he's going in and saying, well, okay, we'll do this deal. We'll bring investments in. He appointed a gentleman by the name of Massad Boulos, who is Lebanese, and he's been a special advisor for Africa for Trump. He's the father-in-law of Donald Trump's daughter, Tiffany.
Oh, boy.
Trump. So it's a family affair, right? So Trump said, we're going with the mineral deal, right? And by the way, first in line is a gentleman by the name of Gentry Beach. He was Trump finance campaign co-chair, right? So he has his sights on a coltan mine, the largest coltan mine in the world. That's captured by the M23 and the Rwandans. So he's lined up to get access to that. Eric Prince, he's like, okay, he's still, got rid of the Blackwater name, but he's still in the business of shady deals and all that. So he's saying, I'm coming in, I'm going to bring security to the mines so the American investments can be secured. We'll provide the security for that. And with the administration leading, we saw the White House meeting with all the tech officials were like paying their penance to Trump.
Yes. Bowing and groveling and scraping.
Right.
Yes.
I think Tim Cook brought him some kind of fancy gift or something, some kind of eye gift. I don't know. So in any case, the billionaire class have an opening. So you have Jeff Bezos, owner of the Washington Post and Amazon, Bill Gates, former founder of Microsoft, Michael Bloomberg out of New York. They have a company called Cobalt Metals. Yeah. So they've raised $1 billion this year to invest in the Congo. So they are moving for the lithium mines in east of the Congo, right? So Trump and his friends, close friends, family, and billionaire class, their interests are served, right? Now, the peace deal that was signed from a position of weakness on the part of the Congolese government. They could, if they were acting in the interest of the people, they could have engaged in a more robust position that would benefit the people. Because in February at the United Nations, the Security Council passed a resolution 2773, unanimous vote, 15-0. Israel doesn't even get that. I mean, Palestine doesn't even get that. Somebody's always putting their hands in the pocket.
Somebody meaning the United States.
Right? Right. And, usually has some black woman up there, taking the heat, right? So in any case, the UN passed this resolution that called for the Rwandan soldiers to withdraw from the Congo immediately without any preconditions and sever its command and control of the M23. That's a UN resolution, the whole world, Russia, China, US, France, all of them. But the Congolese government didn't push on that front. Okay? In fact, they signed an agreement. The M23 has occupied Congo with the backing of Rwanda and Rwanda soldiers since 2022, for the past 3 years. In that whole document, that agreement, so just think about it, Jacqueline. M23, Rwanda, they've occupied and continue to occupy larger swaths of Congo, almost the size of Rwanda, since 2022, right? And in this agreement, M23 is only mentioned 3 times.
How?
3 times. One of those 3 was in the glossary.
Stop it, Maurice.
What the strategy was to push off the M23 as an internal matter that's not related to Rwanda.
Wow.
And the Congolese government went for that.
Uh-oh. Oh, we lost your audio just.
And then they went on to describe Rwanda's presence in the Congo as this Orwellian term, defensive measures, right? Defensive measures that have killed 7,000 people, captured 2 major cities, one 2 million, another of 1 million in the east of the Congo, right? And the Congolese government signed on to it. Now, when they pushed off the M23 as a Congolese issue, they said, well, Qatar will facilitate the negotiations between the Congolese government and the M23. Washington facilitate the negotiations between the Congolese government and Rwanda. So Rwanda succeeded in separating M23 from itself, even though everybody on the planet knows that there is no M23 without Rwanda. So the Congolese government subscribed to these prescriptions. That's why you have Qatar. Now, Qatar has economic interests in Rwanda and in the Congo, right? So in all of this, the Sovereign Wealth Fund in Qatar also stands to benefit. They've just announced that they're going to invest $100 billion on the African continent.
Oh, wow.
21 billion of the 100 billion is going to the Congo, right? So their economic interests are met. So Trump's interests are met. Tshisekedi's interests are met. Kagame's interests are met. Qatar's interests are met, right? Everyone except the Congolese people. So that's how you arrive at this separation that you rightly pointed out between the M23 and Rwanda, when they're really, in reality on the ground, there is no separation. And since the peace agreement has been signed, hundreds of people have been killed in the occupied territories. People have been disappeared. Children have been recruited into military. Women have been systematically raped, right? To the point where the UN Security Council had to call an emergency session in September to discuss what was going on in the Congo. How come, things are continuing as they were? So there's a disconnect between what's actually happening on the ground in the occupied territories and the Kivus, and what's happening in the capitals, Washington and Doha and all of that, right? So that's the lay of the land in terms of why we see things unfolding the way they are.
And see, this continued scramble for African resources in the Congo that just so incredibly depressing, that the people of the Congo have no one on their side who is in power. You've got U.S. officials jockeying for their personal interests, because the Trump's interests are not political, they are personal, they're for his pockets and the pockets of his friends. But that is also true with Paul Kagame in Rwanda, but that's just as true as Felix Tshisekedi in the Congo. For people who don't know, who are listening or what, but Felix Tshisekedi is the president of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So some of these resources that we talk about, now we all know about the cobalt or the coltan rather. I think people are pretty clear on Congo's importance in regard to coltan, because we all use the things that it's needed for. But what we are doing this interview on requires coltan, the computer that we use, right? But that's not the only resource. There's obviously gold and other rare earth or other valuable minerals, and gold in particular. With M23, were they not accused of like stealing trillions of dollars of gold? It just also, wasn't that reported in the last week? So now that they are separated from Rwanda and M23 is a Congo issue, according to this agreement, what does that do for holding M23? Is Congo getting that gold back from those people?
It's not likely. We're trying to figure out if they're going to get the territory back, right? Which the gold is found, and which the the tin is found, in which the coltan is found, in which the pyrochlore is found. Congo has minerals for almost all of the metals on the periodic chart. That's what we're dealing with. And that scramble that you talk about, of course, the personal interest is there, but even from the Biden administration, the Congo is a space for a geostrategic battle for control and access to Congo's riches, right? And I don't know if we want to follow up after, if you want for Katia and others to jump in, and I can continue.
Yeah, because one of these resources that I do want to talk about is in the Congo Basin, and it's something that a lot of people do not. I knew about the Congo Basin, but I wasn't clear on how important it is in the context of the environment, a natural ecosystem, and of course, what that means to capitalists, because that's a big deal. That's a huge part of the resources also. But I did forget, because I was so excited about this interview, that I forgot that we are still in pledge drive here on WPFW.
Yes.
I really just want to talk about the Congo.
We have to support the people-powered radio. There's you're not going to get this anywhere else. This kind of excitement, unless it's financed and supported by the people.
Absolutely. So for this hour, I have a $300 goal. And listen, if you are enjoying this content, if you are enjoying the content that you've heard all day long on WPFW, raising awareness about the Congo, helping you understand what is really going on, as opposed to the polite and quite deadly lies you are being told in corporate media about the Congo, presenting the interests of those in power and completely ignoring the continued struggle of the people. That's why I came on to do this interview for this special day of programming, because this is so incredibly important. So please call, help us meet this $300 goal. 202-588-9739 or 1-800-222-9739, or you can go to the website wpfwfm.org. You can pledge that way, but if you're on the website, why not just download the WPFW app? It's a new app. You can have WPFW and all of the wonderful public affairs programming, all of the amazing music, all of the fantastic community events in your hand, in the palm of your hand, everywhere you go. So convenient. Please help us meet this $300 goal. And guess what? Katia is joining us. Katia Stitt, how are you?
I'm good. I'm a little tired, but we doing the people's work, so we're good. And I'm just so appreciative of you, Jackie, taking this hour on. And I don't blame you. This discussion is riveting. I'm trying to follow it all, the twists and turns, but it's the information that our listeners need so that they know how to move on this issue. This is the political education. This is the political analysis that we really need to be able to support the Congo and the Congolese people in their quest for liberation. And I heard you. The reason I jumped on, because normally I know you don't need no help, you good. But I was like, oh, she's fangirl right now. She's just in it. She's in the conversation. She forgot the clock. So I'm like, okay. And I don't blame you, because Maurice, listen, I can listen for hours because I learned so much each time. And that is really why we did this day, because we understood that and there is no hierarchy of oppression. So let's be clear, right? Genocide is genocide is genocide. Displacement is displacement is displacement. However, as you said at the top, often these movements that lift up Palestine, and it's a terrible thing, because actually the Palestinians themselves and those working for Palestinian liberation, they make sure to include Congo, Haiti, Sudan, Tigray, wherever it's happening, they include it. But we got some other movements that don't do that. So WPFW said, well, we're committed to ensuring that, especially when there is, in addition to all that we do with Palestine, we got to put out the same effort and do the same for all of these places, because we understand that the liberation of one relies on the liberation The liberation of all relies on the liberation of one. So $300, you all, this is the easiest lift of the day. I think I started with 1,800.
Ooh.
And then we had a 1,300 in there. So, and we had an 800 and a 600. So come on, this is $300. We can do this together, folks. Many hands do make light work. And we have to also thank Maurice, not only for his information, excuse me, and being with us tonight, but we have to thank him for co-curating, in the sense that many of the voices we heard from the Congo itself, he and Moiza secured those voices.
Yes.
So it's so important. And it's always, as you know, Jackie, an organizer yourself with Black Alliance for Peace, it's always so important to hear from those that are most affected, because they also have the solution, and we just follow their lead. And WPFW is just a way to amplify those voices. It's just a means of political education and political analysis. And if you understand that independent media and hours like this are critical to all of us being liberated, then we ask you now, $300, 800-222-9739, or WPFWFM.org. I think we have a little less than we have exactly a half hour to do it. And we can do this together. And I don't want to be long-winded, because I know you all have so much more to talk about. But again, folks, I urge you to support that which supports you. Support that which supports you. You know, Askia, our dear, you both knew, our dear music. He was a musicologist and music, you know, he should have been a music director,
Yeah.
but you know, dear brother and news director here at WPFW, he would just say, be for who be for you. You know, so that's what we're about today. We for the Congo. Are you for the Congo? We've asked you all day to make a pledge of support, and when you do, and many people did it, which I love, just put in the notes, free Congo.
Yeah.
That's the call. That's the rally for today. You know, and to ensure that there is a platform like WPFW where a whole day can be dedicated, because no outlet is doing this. No outlet is doing this, and we will continue to do it. This is our second annual. Next year we got our third annual, and we're going to start including, you know, we talked to the brother from Sudan. We're going to include Sudan in a day, Haiti in a day, you know, America in a day, because we oppress, boots on the ground, coast to coast. So we're going to talk about oppression. I forget how we said it, but you know, a nation where fascism is alive and well and thriving. We're going to do all of it, but we can only do it with your support. So again, 800-222-9739, WPFWFM.org are the ways to connect. I want $300 to go. I want to give it back to my dear sister here, my dear brother, and then maybe I'll jump on to thank some people a little later.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, appreciate your time and your just the vision and providing this space for us, because where else for CNN is not going to do this, folks. MSNBC not going to, and you know doggone well Fox News wouldn't ever think about it. So $300. We've got 27 minutes to go. Nadia Makio, thank you so much. Nadia Makio, thank you so much.
Oh my gosh.
Because now it's done. See?
Wait, but we want to double it. Hold on. And I want to read her comment. I know we're greedy. See, you get what you need, and then you want a little more. That's what the US is all about. And they get what you need, and then get someone else's too. This is what we do. But Nadia out of Arlington, Virginia, she says to you all, I appreciate everything the station does to keep people well informed. Thank you so much, Nadia. We appreciate you. So we want to just keep it going. We can make $1,000 tonight. No problem. 800-222-9739, WPFWFM.org. I don't know if there's such a thing as greed for good. I don't know.
I'm taking it. We are the good guys, and our greed is for the people. So that is, I think that's okay. And maybe we can find another word other than greed. I don't know, reappropriation.
No, that's an oxymoron.
But the fact, Maurice, but I am glad we kind of landed on greed, because what we are looking at, and yeah, we do have to call our actions something else, because that attitude belongs to the capitalists, and what they are now looking to do through this peace deal, what it sounds like to me, in regard to the Congo Basin. Please explain to people what the Congo Basin is and why it is as big of a target as the resources that are in the ground are to the capitalist forces now, like people don't understand why that is.
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing that up, because we talk about the minerals in the Congo, which is incredibly important, but also the forest is equally important, especially in this time that we're living in now. Congo sits at the nexus of two dominant phenomena of our time. One is the climate emergency, right? And the second is the energy transition, so-called energy transition. And the energy transition is put up as an option because of the climate crisis. Now, Congo is often referred to as Congo Basin rainforest is often referred to as the second lung of the world, behind the Amazon basin. The Congo Basin encompasses about 6 countries or so, but the Democratic Republic of the Congo occupies over 60% of the Congo Basin. Although the Congo Basin is referred to as the second rainforest or the second lung of the world, it is arguably the most vital because it sequesters more carbon than Amazon and Borneo combined, right? So it's indispensable when we talk about combating the climate crisis. The Congo Basin is also home to the largest tropical peatlands in the world. And the peatlands are an area where sediment and foliage have accumulated over thousands of years. And they trap carbon in the soil. And if that carbon is released, Jackie, they have enough carbon in the Congo peatlands to produce the pollution that we see has been produced in the United States for 20 years as a result of burning fossil fuels.
Wow.
The peatlands in the Congo is the size of England.
What?
Right? So it's critical to protect this area of the world. Now, guess who is in the Congo, quote unquote, protecting the peatlands and the rainforest? Same gentleman who's an investor in cobalt metals, Jeff Bezos. Bezos Foundation. Now, they're going in from the top. The United Nations has a program called RED. It deals with carbon credits, right? You're familiar with the carbon credits.
Yep.
That's basically where you bring in, it's a capitalist excuse or rationale for quote unquote protecting the rainforest, where countries that are polluting the atmosphere, they're able to purchase carbon credits from global South countries that have low emission rates. So you have the United Arab Emirates and Qatar, and you have Wall Street hedge funds all going in around carbon credits, where areas are circled off to say they're accrue to the credit of these these countries or these corporations, and they pay the governments for those carbon credits. It's a form of income for some of the governments, but it stays at the level of the elite. Now, that fits in the complex of what we call fortress conservation, where these major institutions, the Wall Street hedge funds, and your international organization like the World Wildlife Fund, for example, they go in and they say, we're going to protect the environment by setting up conservation areas, right? And this is really an export from the United States under Teddy Roosevelt. Because the first fortress conservation is Yellowstone Park. And Roosevelt, if you read the propaganda, he's championed as the first environmental president. Right? Right? So if you know anything about Yellowstone, you know what fortress conservation is, because in order for you to preserve this park, you have to displace the best preservers of the rainforest, of the environment. And those are the indigenous people.
Right.
So these fortress conservation, when entities, they come in, they displace the Mbuti people, the so-called pygmies, the Twas, in order to set up this fortress conservation, where they say they're preserving the rainforest, protecting it, but the best preservers and protectors of the rainforest is the indigenous population. So you have that form of exploitation occurring in the Congo as well, in an area that is really a global patrimony, because the Congo Basin rainforest regulates the temperature, the climate. In fact, you have some elected officials in Florida who've introduced a bill in Congress around the protection of the Congo Basin rainforest, because the way the Atlantic flows and the impact of the Congo Basin affects the shores of Florida.
Wow!
Right. So it's not often talked about, but it's an equally valuable part of the Congo, where the indigenous communities are paying the price for these carbon credit entities, these fortress conservation entities. There's an incredible scholar. I think she may even be a member of BAP. I don't know. Abby Sen, out of North Carolina. She's at a university there. She's published a lot on this question of capitalism, Wall Street hedge funds, and how they destroy the environment and displace local communities.
Wow.
So the Basanja coalition that we work with, there's a coalition in the Congo, it's frontline community, a coalition of indigenous and local leaders who are organizing to protect the rainforest. So when we have Congo Week, we have shows like these, we have an opportunity to amplify their voices, to let people at least know they exist, that there are people resisting in the rainforest, right? And we've produced at least 3 films on the rainforest to educate the world about the struggle that's being led by the indigenous communities in the rainforest. A number of years ago, The Nation magazine, on their with Christian Parenti, I think he's a son of Michael Parenti, did an expose on the Congo and the rainforest, on the palm oil plantations. That's another scourge that's in there.
Yeah.
And he pinpointed a company out of Pennsylvania called the Blattner Group, who are going in to literally establish plantations of palm oil in the Congo. And the people in the area, in the Isangi district, and one of the founders of the Basanja Coalition is from the Isangi district, they organized to shut down the palm oil plantation. You know, their resistance. So we need to know about those victories, that Congo is not the people that are just sitting there and taking it, but they're resisting, they're organizing, they're movement building, you know, they're producing knowledge to educate people about what's happening and why it is that they're the ones who should maintain control over their land, their resources, right? So there's a vibrant grassroots movement occurring in rural Congo as well, especially under the auspices of the Basanja Coalition. So in line with the exploitation is also resistance.
Yeah.
And that's where we come in, to amplify their voices, to be in solidarity with them as they do their movement building, to let them know they're not alone, and also to let the Wall Street hedge funds and the international organizations know that these people on the inside, they got connections and juice on the outside. So we can put pressure on them outside as well. They can't act with impunity in the Congo without suffering any kind of consequences, even if it's at the level of reputational damage, because they present themselves. You know, the Bezos Foundation says, hey, we're good guys, we're protecting the rainforest. But you're involved in carbon credits and fortress conservation. So we disrupt that narrative. That's a part of the resistance and a role that we can play. And that's why WPFW is so so critical because it provides a platform for the listening audience to know about this. Otherwise, they wouldn't know the resistance going on in the Congo, that the owner of the Washington Post right here in your city, that he's vested in the Congo, in the rainforest, he's vested in the mines, right? So that's really, it's WPFW where you're going to get this kind of information.
And I really appreciate that breakdown of the Congo Basin and how it is being threatened with capitalist exploitation, just like
Absolutely.
Amazon and just like every other natural space that exists under capitalism at everywhere
Absolutely.
in the world. And I've got some really fantastic updates. Gregory in Alexandria, Virginia, thank you so much. A sustaining member and friend from Washington, D.C. says, for Congo, a web donation. Thank you so much. We are at plus 15. So listen, we've still got 15 minutes to go, y'all. Y'all don't have to stop calling. Keep calling, keep donating, keep pledging. 202-588-9739, 1-800-222-9739, WPFWFM.org. We need to fund the information that is valuable to us. Did you know anything about the Congo Basin before we just talked about it here on WPFW? No, I know you didn't, because I never heard it on any corporate news source. I had to read it from an Africa Source newspaper that focuses on Congo issues. If you don't know where those sources are, your second best source of information is WPFW and interviews and conversations like this. So please continue, keep calling, keep pledging. 588-9739 or 1-800-222-9739. Maurice,
yeah,
none of this could be done, as you said at the top of the interview. None of this could be done without the support of the United States, but they're not the only ones. So what role does the U.S. military through Africom play, as well as the U.S. government's little brother, little settler colonial ethno-state brother? What role do they play in this continuing degradation of Congo?
Yeah, the role is quite destructive. I mentioned to you the training that the U.S. Provides to the aggressor nation in Rwanda, and also we can't leave Uganda out of it. They're part of it as well. The son of the president, a few years ago, the Ugandan president Yoweri Museveni graduated from Fort Leavenworth, so he's got his marching orders. The son of Paul Kagame himself, went to West Point, right? He didn't graduate. So the U.S. is there for training, for education of these elites in the interests of the empire, right? The little brother that you talk about engage in so many ways. They're engaged militarily, economically, right? In fact, the grandson of the Israeli diamond exchange, his name is Dan Gertler. He's involved in the Congo. He's made billions off the Congo, and his practices in Congo has been so beyond the pale that even the U.S.'s Treasury Department has to sanction. If you have the U.S. Treasury Department is sanctioning an Israeli businessman for practices in the Congo, it's just got to be way off the pale. So in any case, he has access to concessions in the Congo, and he pulls in about $200,000 a day from his concessions.
A day?
A day. $200,000 from royalties a day. Right. Meanwhile, you have 70 million Congolese, 70 million of the 110 million, living on less than $2.15 a day. One Israeli billionaire, 70 million Congolese. Israeli billionaire, $200,000 a day. Congolese masses, 70 million, $2.15 a day. And he repatriates that to the settler little brother Settler Colony, right? In the West Bank and throughout Israel. So you know that the country is being plundered. So that's one way in which Israel is engaged. Now you also have the companies that produce spyware and security apparatus that they export to Rwanda and to Congo, that they use to track activists, human rights defenders, that's used by the Rwandan government. The UN reported in its report in July that members of the Rwandan military were involved in command and control of the M23. They've gone to Israel to get training. Now, I mentioned to you, Jackie, that we're dealing with neo-colonial states, right? In the region. So before October 7, 2023, the contingent of Israeli Defense Forces in the Congo training Congolese soldiers under Felix Tshisekedi. They had to leave to go back to Israel after October 7, 2023.
To kill their own hostages. I'm sorry.
So
that's what they did.
They're just deeply embedded. And these leaders are so bought. When you were mentioning little brother, I thought from Africom, I thought you were gonna bring in NATO, right? Because it was NATO and Africom, Sarkozy, Obama, Hillary Clinton that aligned to overthrow the strongest pan-African presence on the African continent in 2011 in Muammar Gaddafi in Libya.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So they're still very much deep in the African continent. And Paul Kagame of Rwanda, he's offered his services up to them, right? So there's a company called Total Energies that have natural gas interests in Mozambique, Cabo Delgado region. And there's an uprising there. So Sarkozy of France called on Kagame and said, hey, we need you to send your soldiers to Mozambique to protect Total Energies' interests. And he offered his soldiers up, the mercenary force for the capitalist class, right? And in return, Kagame, of course, he gets diplomatic and political cover from France, but the European Union also, cut him a check for 20 million euros in 2023, another 20 million euros 2024, and then entered into a critical minerals deal with him to get critical minerals from Rwanda, which they're getting illicitly from the Congo, out to Europe. Right? So he's bought line, hook, and sinker. And I really want to go in on this point because people present Kagame as a Pan-Africanist, a model leader to follow on the continent. I know you probably haven't heard of it.
They do?
I can't tell you how many people do that, right? So part of the reason why Kagame has such a good relationship with Macron is because Kagame lobbied Macron for the leadership of the Francophonie. People may not have heard of the Francophonie. The Francophonie is the French corollary to the British Commonwealth. And it's the largest soft power entity on the part of France. And today it's headed up by a Rwandan. The Secretary General of the Francophonie is Louise Mushikiwabo, Rwanda's former foreign minister. So this is really critical for people to understand. French's soft power, the largest global soft power entity, is headed up by a Rwandan at the behest of Kagame lobbying Macron. Why is this so important? In East Africa, you have Rwanda up in the Francophonie. In Niger, in Mali, in Burkina Faso, Alliance of Sahel state, they're kicking out the French.
Right.
Kicked out their ambassadors, kicked out their military, right? They represent the vanguard of anti-imperialism and Pan-Africanism. Now you can't have the vanguard of anti-imperialism and capitalism kicking out the French and then have another Pan-Africanist climbing up into the French.
Inviting the open arms and trying,
right? And promote French culture through French soft power entity, the Francophonie. That just generates cognitive dissonance.
Mm-hmm.
So when people talk about Kagame being a model leader, Kagame will get on the mic and he's like, "Oh, they can go to hell." That's all he has to say, and people start cheering when he talks about, Belgium or whatever. He has that latitude to rhetorically present himself as anti-West, but he's not.
But
not in the term of his financing, and half of his budget is financed by the West. Not in terms of his business relationships with some of the, the Boris with Netanyahu, with Boris Johnson of England. He offered Boris Johnson of England to the asylees to come to Rwanda. He's done that with Trump. The first asylee that was sent was an Iraqi to Rwanda under the Trump administration, and they're looking to send more. So these folks that are ravaging the Congo, right, are anti-African. They're killing Africans in the Congo. So it's really important for us to understand that part of the narrative. And they're doing it in cahoots, with Israel, in cahoots with members of the European Union, in cahoots with the UK, in cahoots with the United States. Or not even in cahoots, but at their behest. It's probably the more accurate way of stating it.
I mean, the Congolese people are facing a confluence of all of the forces that the people of the global South and the working class and poor people of the world are fighting in kind of, at least this is what it sounds like to me. Like,
no, that's
Congo is the
exactly
center
it.
of the universe. That, Africa is the center of the universe, because all of these forces have converged together to gang up on the Congolese people, picking the Congo apart for their profit.
And it's been like that. When Che went to Congo in 1965, Jackie, he stated in his diaries, I encourage people to read Che's diaries on the Congo. He said, Congo's problem is a world problem, right? He saw Congo as the front lines of the battle against colonialism. And it remains that way to this very day. The forces are arrayed. The local elites are against them. The neighboring countries like the Kagames and Museveni's, the foreign governments, I've just listed them, EU, France, UK, and all of that. The multinational corporations, I mentioned them, the Cobalt Metals and the Glencores, all of them. And multilateral institutions, IMF and the World Bank, who wrote the mining laws for the Congo in the interest of private capital. So all of these forces are against them. And that's why Lumumba, when in his last letter to his wife, Pauline, he said to the Congolese people, he said, "We're not alone. Africa, Asia, free and liberated people from every corner of the world will be found by the side of the Congolese." So that's what we're doing. That's what Congo Week is about, rallying those people that Lumumba talked about to come to the side of the Congolese, because that's the last line of defense, is the people, with all these other forces arrayed against them. And Fanon providentially laid it out, for us, those of us throughout the globe. Fanon said toward the African Revolution, he said, let us not forget the fate of all of us is at stake in the Congo. So we need to give to WPFW like our fate is at stake, because WPFW is providing a platform for Congolese voices, Congolese information to get out. It's the heart of the African continent. It's a fulcrum on which the continent swings. If we're concerned about the continent as a whole, we definitely have to be concerned about the Congo, and we need to support efforts to get the news out about the Congo. And thanks WPFW for that.
Maurice, thank you so much for your time on a very long day in a very impactful week. I appreciate you. And we'll be talking again soon, because Congo will be free. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Peace, everybody.
Peace.
The recording has stopped.